Picture yourself standing in a muddy field in Flanders, 1916. The ground trembles beneath your boots as artillery screams overhead. You have 4 hours until dawn, a shovel with a worn handle, and the certain knowledge that your survival depends entirely on how deep you can dig before the next barrage begins. This was the reality for millions of soldiers who became accidental engineers, transforming raw earth into fortresses that would define an entire generation of warfare. The trench was more than a defensive position. It was a lifeline, a home, and quite often a grave. Today, we're descending into the forgotten science of field fortification, where every spadeful of dirt could mean the difference between life and annihilation. The construction of a proper trench system was a masterclass in battlefield geometry that, honestly, few modern survivalists truly understand. Soldiers didn't simply dig straight lines into the earth. They created zigzagging traverses every 15 to 20 feet, angular designs that prevented enemy troops from enfilading an entire line with machine gun fire if they breached the position. A front-line fire trench measured 4 feet wide and 7 feet deep, with a fire step carved 18 inches below the parapet where men would stand to shoot. Behind this, support and reserve trenches ran parallel, all connected by communication trenches that allowed movement without exposure to snipers. Soldiers learned to read the soil itself. Clay held its shape but became a sucking quagmire in rain. Sandy soil drained well, but collapsed without constant shoring. Chalk found across northern France carved cleanly and drained beautifully. The digging never stopped. Erosion, artillery, and constant collapse meant maintenance was eternal. When the earth itself becomes your fortress, you learn to build downward. The Germans excelled at this, excavating dugouts 30 feet below the surface, deep enough to survive all but the heaviest artillery. These weren't crude caves, but engineered shelters with timber-reinforced ceilings, multiple entrances for escape, and ventilation shafts. The construction was methodical: sink a vertical shaft, then tunnel horizontally, always shoring as you advance with timber frames spaced every 4 feet. The excavated earth built up parapets, filled sandbags, and created false positions to deceive enemy observers. Survival demanded becoming part of the landscape itself. Freshly turned earth showed dark against surrounding terrain, a beacon for artillery observers. Soldiers scattered straw, transplanted grass, and used theatre paint. The birth of military camouflage came from artists recruited to deceive the eye. Trench periscopes made from mirror fragments allowed observation without exposing silhouettes. Men moved only during darkness or under morning mist. They understood that smoke from cooking fires drew shells, and that the gleam of a belt buckle at dawn could summon a sniper's bullet. Living in the earth changes you profoundly. The trench had its own climate, perpetually damp, with a smell that never left memory: mud, unwashed bodies, latrines and decay. Soldiers developed trench foot from waterlogged boots. They shared quarters with rats grown fat on corpses. Yet humans adapted. They carved funk holes for sleeping, created drainage systems from scavenged materials, and built braziers from ammunition boxes. Water discipline became paramount. Soldiers collected rainwater in ground sheets, purified questionable water by boiling, and learned to recognize contaminated sources. Food arrived as iron rations: bully beef, hardtack biscuits, and tea, always tea, brewed strong and sweetened with condensed milk, the psychological anchor of trench life. The soldiers who engineered these earthworks under fire left us more than historical footnotes. They demonstrated that survival is engineering, that protection comes from understanding materials and geometry, and that adaptation trumps equipment every time. Their knowledge of reading terrain, building shelters that work with natural drainage, camouflage principles, and resource management under scarcity. These aren't museum pieces, but living skills for anyone serious about preparedness. The trench taught absolute lessons: dig deep, build smart, stay invisible, and never stop improving your position. These men, with simple tools and desperate necessity, became master craftsmen of survival. If this journey into forgotten wisdom has sparked your curiosity, subscribe to Fieldcraft Chronicles, share this with fellow history enthusiasts and anyone who understands that the most valuable knowledge often lies buried in the past. Until next time, keep learning, keep building, and remember, the earth protects those who know how to work with it.